Welcome to the Last Beer Show. Yeah, baby, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Jason.
Good to see you.
Jason.
Jason.
I
see what you did there.
See where I was going?
Yeah.
Little Miyagi.
Little Karate Kid. Yeah.
What's happening? What's happening?
Just, sipping on some beer and hanging out by the old table.
Chillaxing.
Yep, exactly.
How was your month?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It was very busy. Lots of stuff at work with the brewery.
Sure. We're in the throes of the holiday season, so that's always completely uneventful.
Yep, lots of beer releases, and then personally prepping for the holidays and going out of town and all those sorts of things. So putting up Christmas decorations and you know all that kind of stuff. My wife had chemo 4 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago. So helping with that, and yeah, man, just pushing along, the little engine that could.
Plowing through.
Yep. What about you?
Yeah, man, I drank a lot of good beer this month. I suppose we'll get into that in a sec. But it's, holiday season is in full swing. As soon as you separate from Halloween, it starts to get real, very fast, as one once said. We found ourselves in a unique position of having too many Christmas ornaments.
Yeah.
Because we kind of make them as art and craft projects every year. So what happened was the wife decided we needed 3 trees.
3 trees.
So we have 3 trees in our house.
3 trees are better than one.
So I'm not sure exactly what kind of spoiled, privileged, whatever bag that makes me. But, I just like to think we got just a little more extra spirit this year.
Yeah.
Than maybe we had before. I don't know if it changes anything. So
I think we're going to have 2 trees. And what I will tell you is that there are times where you really feel it, and then there's times where you make yourself feel it because you need it. You know what I mean?
Fair. Totally fair.
Where you go, you know what? I'm going to put an extra tree there because I really need that extra oomph of the spirit. And so I feel like that's kind of where we are too.
What bottles have you gotten into?
I was actually just looking at my Instagram feed.
So this is a no alerts zone. No alerts.
No alerts.
Notifications off. Thanks, buddy.
Sorry. I was actually looking at my Instagram to see what I got into, and I remembered some amazing beers from Bottle Logic, Fundamental Observation and Fundamental Summation, which were amazing. Matter of fact, I would say the Fundamental Summation might be the best beer that I had all year.
What?
By a Texas mile.
What?
Yep. Fundamental Summation, which is an incredible beer if you ever get your hands on it from Bottle Logic.
That's quite a statement.
It's quite a statement, but it's incredibly real. And then the other beer, which was a Fundamental Observation, was itself an amazingly tasty and beautiful beer. But Fundamental Summation to me, it's made with Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee and coconut, and it's just it's a smorgasbord of the things that I really like. The other beer that blew me away that I really was just incredible was a beer from the Answer Brew Pub in Richmond, Virginia. It was 2 Scoops, which is part of their line of Gosas and Berliner Weisses that are fruited. And then I also had the Pineberry Popsicle, which is strawberries and pineapples popsicle. And the cool thing about these beers is that they're just fruit juice bombs, 3.5%, super low alcohol, just like Hawaiian punch, juicy.
Yeah.
Another beer that I had, which blew me away, was Modern Times Devil's Teeth, the new version of Devil's Teeth, which is the the Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels. It's the NOLA Coffee Edition. Those are coming in cans this year, which is kind of unique. And then of course the most interesting one of the most interesting beers I had was the Pumpkin Spice Latte Double Milkshake IPA from Tired Hands. It was very interesting, to say the least. So
Very interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't get a ton of like pumpkin spice or pumpkin pie out of it, although it did have that like classic lactosey Tired Hands.
But that's the complete opposite of what you usually get.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting to, like I said, to say the least. It was. I don't think there's anybody that makes those those super lactose bomb IPAs like Tired Hands does. And so even when it's not incredibly flavorful, it's still a good, thick kind of milkshakey IPA.
Gotcha.
And then the last one that I'll make note of is Cycles Brenner, which is a stout, barrel aged stout that they do, aged in maple barrels with coffee added to it. It's part of their line that was released a few weeks ago, and is a spectacular beer. I mean, it's incredibly tasty from top to bottom. What about you?
Yeah, I think my list is equally as long.
Yes.
And interesting. The folks up at Stillwater Artisanal, that Wavy, the batch 2 and batch 3 were both really ridiculously good. Batch 2, ridiculously good. Stone's Chocovesa.
Okay.
It's really good. It's so good. And they're sourcing their own chocolate, sourcing and making their own chocolate. So it's 100% chocolate that they're producing in their own kitchen and making the beer with it, and it's really fantastic. I got into, seems like a lot of sours, some Wild Heaven, Concrete Jungle. I got into a couple of local IPAs, your favorites, your boys, the Southern Juicy Juice from Jekyll and Dust Bunny from Monday Night Brewing.
Yep.
Both Atlanta locals, and both probably two of the most popular and sought after local beers right now. So that was really fun to get into those. Also got up to Cherry Street, not too far away, and they're doing a real good job with so many things.
Yeah, I should note that Cherry Street won the U.S. Beer Open Championship this past year for best brewery in the country this past year.
Yeah, they're doing absolutely stunning work.
Yep, they are.
The Cherry Limeade.
Oh, yeah.
Is out of this world. That is some of their IPAs. Their hazy IPAs.
Steppin' Razors.
The Juicy Susie, the Ninja Kick.
Ninja Kick is great.
And, some old classics that I got into that reminded me, my foundation a little bit. The Death by Coconut.
Oh, yeah.
From Oscar Blues.
Yep. I
don't know how many people are walking by that six-pack.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's probably hard to get right now.
And it's incredible. Wiseacre, I had a beer from them.
They're out of Memphis.
Yeah, and their Symphonic, which is American Wild Ale I got into, was really incredible. And another Stone, though, it's a collaboration, the Woot Stout, the Drew Curtis, Will Wheaton, and Greg Koch. It's a really fantastic stout with it wasn't as nutty or as rye because it's like a nut rye and kind of lactose type thing, but it was really good.
Yeah, you mentioned Wiseacre out of Memphis. If you ever get a chance, they've got a beer called Gotta Get Up, Get Down. It's a milk stout that they do, which is a really, really delicious kind of milk stouty stout.
I'll dig that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now, I mean, it's, we're almost a week removed from Black Friday, so everybody's chasing down their Goose Island.
Yeah, everybody's still in the Goose Island mindset. Although, as of Friday, they go into CBS mind frame because Founders CBS, which was last produced in 2011, is actually going to be released this Friday, December 1st, all over the country. And so people are just now off the throes of chasing Bourbon County stouts, and now they're going to be chasing trucks for CBS.
They're going to wait in line for hours.
Yeah.
People are going to wait in line overnight for that one.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with CBS, CBS is basically their barrel-aged stout, but instead of a bourbon barrel, these are aged in maple syrup barrels, and it is super rich and sweet and incredible. I actually had the opportunity to have it side by side with KBS a few years ago here in Atlanta, and it is spectacular. But I was actually able to score myself a pre-bottle of the CBS, and I'm trying to figure out when the right time to open it is, because it's the kind of thing where you want to drink one because you really want to drink it, but you really want to save it because
you want to save it, and if you can sit on that, like if they go another 5 or 6 years without releasing it again, if you just go 2 or 3 years, you'll be able to sell that and buy yourself a boat. Maybe a trip to Jamaica.
Yeah. I'm a huge sharer, and so I'd like to share one now and then share one for some kind of big day in a couple of years, but they're going to be incredibly scarce. They're going to be really hard, like you said. There's going to be a lot of waiting. I'm actually going to be in Nashville this Friday. We're headed there for a concert, but I'm going to have to try to find it around Nashville. We're going to hit up, of course, Bearded Iris and Southern Grist while we're there.
That's the day this episode drops.
Yep.
So
boom,
do some promo work.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do that.
Some out of town.
Drop it like it's hot.
Yeah. Tell the people what they're missing.
Yep.
All that. What are we choking down today?
So right now we're drinking. This is a Devide and Conch'r, which is a double IPA from Idyll Hounds Brewing. They're in Santa Rosa, Florida, which is between Panama City and Destin. I was in the Panama City Beach area for Thanksgiving. That's where my family lives. And a friend of mine was gracious to tell me about Idyll Hounds. And I went there and visited a couple of different times, and their beers just blew me away. A large spectrum of beers, from stouts to sours to IPAs. They do a lot of stuff really well, so shout out to those guys. But they're honestly, they're just great guys too. There's 4 of them there, and they put out some really nice beers. This is their double IPA, which is interesting because it's a classic kind of West Coasty IPA.
It's a classic double IPA. It's not one of those current like fuzzy juicy.
Yeah, it's not a hazy haze bomb. It's
not like
definitely a West Coast double IPA, and it's kind of ballsy for them to do that.
Just good. Stick to your roots. Go with what got you there.
I think the story goes that when they told their distributor what they were going to start off with, this West Coast double IPA, I think the distributor was like, "Really? That's what you're going to start with?" And they were like, "That's what we do well. That's what we."
I mean, if you make a good one, if you do it well, just do that.
Yeah.
And people will buy it. They want good beer.
Yeah, this one's really good. Honestly, I'm not a huge West Coast IPA guy usually, but this one's super fresh. Picked it up from the brewery last week, right. And so
it's good. It's sweet. It's bitter. It's got the slightly piney, citrusy hops.
Yeah, so it's pretty good.
It's good, very good actually.
Yeah, and then we're getting ready to open up this Rogue Cold Brew IPA, which is interesting. IPA. Rogue has made a cold brew IPA, which is IPA blended with cold brew coffee, and this is one of their newest beers. It's blended with 200 gallons of Stumptown Coffee Roasters cold brew coffee. Stumptown, obviously super popular coffee roaster out of the Portland area, has since been bought by JAB Holdings, which owns Pete's and Caribou and Einstein Brothers and all these other people. So it'll be interesting to taste this. And then we're going to get into some...
Did you just hiccup?
I did. So, excuse me.
That's awesome.
We're going to get into some Terrapin Moo-tella, which is Terrapin's one of Terrapin's new releases.
Yep.
Their Moo-tella, which is obviously a play on Nutella, and their Moo-hoo.
They do the Moo-hoo Stout.
The Moo-hoo Stouts, right?
Yeah.
They're out of Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we've got some...
they use a local chocolatier for that, don't they?
Yep, they do. Olive Sinclair.
Yeah.
They're out of Nashville, actually. Then we've got something that you brought. This is Flooded Heart, which is a fruited sour ale with cranberries and orange zest from...
My boys up in Seattle, Urban Family.
Yeah, tell me about Urban Family.
One of those really cool small breweries. It's more of like a. They're kind of like on this pier, and it's like this garage door that you open, and you walk in. You sit down in the brewing room, and sit down and have beer. Like you just order the beer. Like it's very. It's very minimal, very simple kind of a setup. There's usually like a food truck outside, parked right outside the door, and it's a real small company. I think they only have like a 15 barrel system. They're relatively small system, so they can't do. But maybe they'd be lucky if they put out 1,000 barrels a year. It's a real small brewery, but they're doing these really cool beers that are like the hazy, fuzzy juice bombs, but they're doing it with fruited sours.
Interesting.
So sometimes I've had a couple and just said out loud, is that really even beer? Does that even qualify? I don't know. Didn't taste anything like beer.
That is crazy.
But yeah, so I'm really excited for you to get into that, dude.
Yeah, so we got that. We've got, this was an extra that someone gave me. This is a peanut butter milk stout from TailGate Beer in Nashville, which never heard of them, but if I like this, I'll check them out in this weekend when I'm there.
I like peanut butter stouts, so I'm also a huge Reese's guy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
And then the last one, this is no self-promotion, but I've got a can of Jekyll's Redneck Christmas Stout, which is a chocolate coffee peppermint stout that they do. And
is this some sort of exclusive?
No, it's
chocolate coffee peppermint stout.
Comes out this time of the year. I'll be honest, like I never really tried it because I
never heard of it.
I kind of never heard of it.
They've done this before?
They did it before in bottles. This is the first year they decided to do it in cans.
Everybody's doing cans. Cans are so hot right now.
They're everything. So we're gonna open up that
cans. And, so hot right now.
Yeah. So
those, but that style. I mean, sure. Then we're tearing into a cold brew IPA with coffee in it from Rouge, but
we're gonna move into some darker stuff.
These stouts. I mean, they're happening in the cold weather. The leaves start to turn.
Oh, that's interesting.
You get over your tryptophan high, and then you start seeking out these porters and coffees and stouts and nut browns,
which is interesting. So we should talk about that.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So it's interesting that you say that because the colder weather makes me think of coffee and hot chocolate and all of these sort of kind of darker, roastier things, which is exactly why porters and stouts are popular this time of year.
They like them up north, don't they?
They love them up north.
The tundra, the frozen tundra.
Yeah, exactly. So
the Russian Imperial Stout.
It's interesting that the first use of the word stout was in a document dated in 1677. And so with the idea being that it meant a strong beer, not a dark beer. And then the term went to porter in 1721 to describe it. And then stout was actually originally used to describe a darker, more robust porter. So it's stout, So it was actually originally a porter. And it was just a darker, kind of meatier porter, and they were called stout porters. And then now we have a distinction, right? Porters are usually lighter in body. Usually some people will say thin, but they're cleaner. And then stouts are, thicker, a little bit heavier on the mouthfeel.
Right.
And so that's the main difference. And then, of course, you mentioned Russian Imperial stouts. A lot of these stouts came from England and moved into places like Germany, places like that. And then they would ship these stouts to Russia for the folks over there. And because the colder weather, they wanted to make sure they amped up the alcohol so that the beers didn't freeze on their way to Russia.
Gotcha.
So that's why Russian Imperial stouts are usually 10 to 12% or higher in ABV. It's so that the alcohol wouldn't freeze.
Could be stored.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And didn't Now, it's my understanding that the porter style originated because of the lack of consistent access to grains. So they would actually cook or roast the grains so they would last longer. So that's why they had dark breads. That's why they had dark beers, because they needed the grains to make it through winter because they weren't going to get any more grains. So they would roast them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, some people were just looking for a more robust kind of beer, something with a little bit more like, that kind of smoked kind of flavor. And so it's a combination of those two things.
Cool.
And that's how porters got started. And so if we talk about the class of beers known as porters and stouts, we have milk stouts, which are obviously infused with lactose and are usually, a creamier kind of stout. Those you think of like, I think of like Left Hand Nitro Milk Stout.
Oh, good one, yeah.
That's a good one. You've got drier Irish stouts, right? Which is obviously like Guinness.
In Murphy's.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and Murphy's. Then you've got your porters. There's not a ton of like really popular. I think was it Sam Smith is most
Samuel
known.
Smith has one that's really popular. I think Sam Adams had one for a long time. It was popular. I don't think they're making it anymore.
Yeah, Sam Smith is primarily known for their oatmeal stout, which is the classic oatmeal stout made around the world, really,
right? Or
made sold around the world, I guess. So, of course, the oatmeal stout is just the same kind of darker roasted malt grain bill with the addition of flaked oats or oats in it. So it does give it a creamier texture. Then you've got chocolate stouts, which are made with cocoa nibs, right?
Right.
You've got oyster stouts, which are actually made with the juice from oysters. Some people actually put oysters in the fermentation, which is I don't know that's.
I don't know that is. I don't know if that's safe.
Doesn't seem safe, does it?
It doesn't seem safe. I've seen putting it in the boil because it'll sanitize it, but you don't want raw.
Yeah, well, they
seafood sitting for weeks on end.
There, a lot of people historically put a handful of oysters in the barrel, and so while I agree with you,
they are submerged in alcohol.
Yep.
Soon
right.
after they're dropped in, they were submerged in alcohol.
Yep. Then you got your imperial stouts, which are, of course, your darker, your more alcoholic stouts,
heavier, bigger.
Yeah, which are
ABV.
8 to 15 to you can look at Black Tuesday from the brewery. It's 19.9% alcohol.
Right.
And then the last one is the Baltic Porter, which obviously those originated in the Baltic region. They were exported in the 18th century from Britain over there. Those are really good. Matter of fact, I had a really amazing Baltic Porter from a brewery in Estonia at Shelton Fest called Pajula. It's a Pohjula, Pajula, and the beer is called OO. And I don't know. There's got to be a way. I
think there's a pronunciation there that you're missing.
Yeah, I don't know. Now that I don't know that you can say it, but it's O with a lowercase o next to it, which is a Baltic Porter that they do, and it's spectacular.
Those are really dry, right?
Yep, they are. Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple.
Yep, and they can have really high alcohol contents too. I think that Pajula is somewhere around 9-10%.
Solid.
Yep.
Did breakfast. I think they made the oatmeal porter just so they could make an excuse to have beer for the meal.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting that you say that because reading the history of Guinness, the history of Guinness is that Arthur Guinness lived in Dublin and realized that his city was being ravished by people getting drunk and going home and beating their wives and robbing people because Scotch whiskey was so prevalent because everyone was so poor. That they would basically drown their sorrows away with Scotch whiskey, and everybody was drunk all the time, and it was literally ravishing their city, causing them to become violent against each other. And Arthur Guinness said, wanted to try to figure out a way he could help kind of help the situation, help save his city. So he came up with this idea to create this beer that would be super thick and heavy, super kind of bready, if you will, and where you could only drink one,
right.
and it was low alcohol. So you would drink one and be like,
full.
I'm full. I can't drink. It's, some people call Guinness liquid bread, right? Because it's just yeast and thick malts. And so, but the story goes that Guinness is single-handedly saved Dublin from its own self. And it's a fascinating story about Arthur Guinness.
That is fascinating.
And the Guinness brand.
I had no idea.
Yep. Now owned by Diageo and now brewing in the United States in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah. Well, times change. Speaking of that, we've had other breweries get bought.
We have, actually. It's been an interesting week, hasn't it?
I think so. I don't think like this deal is as shocking as, say, some of the other deals of total sellout.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The Ballast Point or the Wicked Weed deals were like, even Goose Island's like, we're buying the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right. The Mahu San Miguel company, they're the largest brewing company in Spain. They bought a minority stake, 30% minority stake in Avery Brewing.
Yep.
And they did this last year when they bought a 30% minority stake in Founders. And the thing I find interesting about these two deals, and I wonder if this is going to be a pattern of external companies that are in beer, but not, say, one of the big two companies out there. It's both of these breweries recently expanded and took on a ton of debt. And the deals basically clean up the bulk of the debt. And they're just selling a share of the business off to clean up their debt. And maybe there isn't an intention to just completely sell out and walk away.
What I find very interesting is that, and I don't know if it's a social media thing per se, but what I find interesting is that I saw a good amount of negative feedback around this minority purchase today,
right,
that I did not see with Founders.
You didn't see it with Founders. You didn't see it as much even with the brewery.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So I find that fascinating. I don't see people boycotting Founders and KBS and CBS this year.
Or even, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago when Heineken bought a minority stake in Lagunitas, long before they bought them out, right?
Yep.
I didn't see a lot of unrest then either over that. I mean, there was when Heineken finally bought it all, certainly with the way the guy went out, like, Jerry Maguire, but...
Yeah. Well, and I think some of that does have to do with social media, right? And has to do with how connected we are to one another through groups and things like that, right, where this news spreads like viral and the mobs come with greater pitchforks.
Well, each network is a little bit different. Yes, Twitter is like mob rules mentality.
Yeah, it really is.
Whereas Facebook's a little bit different.
It's not a whole lot different. Then you still have Reddit, and it's definitely a pitchfork mafia.
Reddit is definitely
kind of
pitchfork mafia.
It is. It's because it's totally.
What is it now? No, it's Tiki Torch.
Yeah, Tiki Torch. It's mostly anonymous.
Not mafia. We said mafia. We meant to say mob.
Yeah, mob. Yeah, but it's that same kind of it's that same kind of mentality where you got a bunch of people that are anonymous behind a keyboard,
right?
And it can get out of hand really quickly. So I was surprised to see that with today's minority purchase from Avery. And honestly, Avery's not a brewery that a ton of people really talk about anyway. So I saw more people talking about Avery today than usually talk about it, period.
I think they're pretty similar to Founders, actually, when you think about, like, the bulk of their revenue comes from low grav, accessible quality beers. Right?
Yeah, but you or I don't really drink those beers. They
don't have massive barrel programs.
No, we drink beers like Rumpkin and beers, some of those type beers.
We drink all kinds of beers.
Well, I drink their Rumpkin and some of their other kind of like their thick boozy stouts.
You said there who?
Avery. Mm-hmm. They had the Lilikoi
Their wheat beers are good.
wheat beer, which was pretty good.
Their Belgian wheat beers are good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Like we've said in the past, I'll say it again. Watch what they do.
Yep.
Not what they say.
Yep.
So
it will be
speaking of social media. Speaking of social media, magical segue. Let's talk about rating apps and networks.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
And I mean, the big one, Untapped.
Yep.
I used before Untapped existed. I was using a couple of others, and they were okay. And they did the bulk of what Untapped. Actually, some of them did more than what Untapped did when it first dropped on the market. But everybody just seemed to go to this one. I think because it was fast, it was simple.
Yep.
It was made by two dudes. It was unassuming. It didn't come from corporate money, right? It was two guys in their bedroom made an app and call it a day and hit it big.
Yep.
And then ultimately they merged with another app, right? A wine app, just so they had more resources. But really what's happened here is what I used to use them for and what I use them for now, but it's really just Untapped. But even like a Facebook group or a Reddit group, it's different now than it was when I initially started using it. But I mean, you really had some passionate feelings about this. So do share.
Well, so obviously I'm in an interesting place because I looked it up.
I think that's called being between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
You could call it interesting.
It definitely is an interesting rock and a hard place. I've actually been on Untapped since August of 2011.
What?
So I've been on it now for 6 years.
I got to be on it before.
I've got 2,582 unique check-ins, which means I've had more than 2,500 unique beers.
January 3rd, 2011.
There you go. You're older than me, actually.
I'm winning. I am older than you.
I've had 3,600 total check-ins.
See, I don't check into everything. I mostly just check into uniques that I've never had.
Yeah, most of mine are uniques too.
Like 1,500 check-ins, but over 1,000 are unique.
Yeah. So I've obviously been using the app for a long time, and I primarily used it previously kind of to do one of two things. One was to check into a beer to remind myself that I had had it previously, right? Yes. Just so
it's a great use.
If I'm out and about and I see that beer, I go, hey, have I had that beer before? Yeah. Or if I'm at a share and that beer is open and I've had it before, I won't open it just because all the shares that we have here and that we go to, we have way more beer than we can actually drink.
Yeah, and you try to keep it unique.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and listing like someone will be like, "Oh, dude, you got to try this beer." I'll just pop it into my wish list on there.
Yeah. So that's the second.
Pull it out in the bottle shop.
Yeah. The second reason why I use Untapped was to give beer a fair rating so that I could give my friends a heads up on what I thought about it,
Right, yeah.
So if I had a beer and it was just like really bad, like we started one tonight. We started one tonight. We're not going to talk about what it was.
Unnamed, it was, I would say, infected.
Yeah, it's a blackberry wheat beer from a brewery, and yeah, I would generally warn my friends about that, right? Like, right. Hey, just if you see this on a shelf, don't buy this.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't have done it exactly that blanket. Now that I know that not every pack or every beer in that bottling run gets infected.
Yeah, but the one that we had was, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to give people some sort of heads up, and I trust I value the thoughts and opinions.
I value
of my
what
friends.
my friends think of beers on there. If
right.
I see someone, and it happens all the time. I've got a couple of friends in particular that I watch on there because they have really interesting palates, and I know they're always seeking things they've never had before.
Yep.
And they rate something I've never seen or haven't tried yet or haven't heard of. I'm like, gotta add that to my wish list.
Yep, exactly. So those are the primary reasons why I used it before. Now, working at a brewery.
Now you're the man.
Handling marketing and social media for a brewery where I have to check Untapped every single day and read every rating and review that goes on behind every beer check-in that we have.
Yeah.
I obviously view it slightly different. I actually made the decision a couple weeks ago that I would no longer rate local beers on Untapped. And the reason is just because, one, I wanted to keep myself from any kind of negative anything from a local brewery.
Yeah,
if I had a beer,
you work for a competitor.
I work for a competitor, and I felt like it's probably smarter for me just to leave it alone.
Some of them are cattier than others.
Yeah, but the other thing is, I thought that it is. It's much easier. The reason why I would check it in the reason why I would check it in is just to check in to say that I've had that beer to myself.
And it doesn't matter how many caps it deserves.
It doesn't, especially not locally, because my friends are all going to drink these same beers anyway. They're probably still going to drink them.
If it's local, they'll eventually get into it. Unless it's like super rare or brewery only or something like that, and it's not going to be distributed, then chances are they'll find it even at the grocery.
Yep. So I'll still rate beers that are out of the area, but I'm not going to rate local beers. Right. And the other thing is, I noticed that. So I toast every check-in for everyone who drinks one of our beers.
Now this is as an employee of a brewery.
As an employee of the brewery,
gotcha.
I toast every check-in of our beers, and I know that that a lot of people really appreciate that because it creates a touch point between the brewery and the consumer.
Oh, they love being seen
that they didn't have before, right?
Well, you're a brewer. You're a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, what happens is we sell our beer in Georgia. We sell our beer to a distributor, and that distributor sells it to a retailer, and that retailer sells it to a customer.
Right.
So we're far removed from the customer in that chain. But Untapped actually gives us that touch point directly between us and the consumer that we didn't get through the transaction.
Right.
So whether good or bad, we have that ability to have that touch point. So I make sure that when a customer rates our beers really highly, I let them know that we appreciate it. And if they rate it really lowly, I let them know that we're open to feedback, that they can feel free to let us know. So I think that that's important and it's valuable. But one thing that I've learned is just how subjective all of this rating stuff is, right? Because I can go through and look at the same beer, check-ins for the same beer, and on one check-in is, this beer was overly malty, 3 caps. And then the very next check-in will be from someone who says, this might be the best IPA I've had all year.
Right.
And then the next one is...
Well, everybody's palate is different.
Yeah.
None of these people, as nice of people as they all are, I'm sure, they're not cicerones. They're not official beer drudges.
That's right. They're average people.
Like me, not you. You're not average, but I'm average.
I feel average.
Right? So I think that contributes to a lot of negativity or hype and to be honest about both ends of that spectrum.
Yep.
On a network like
I agree.
The Untapped or on the Facebook groups or the Reddit groups. So I think that good honest feedback is very valuable to a brewer, and they want it. Anybody who does something creative and they're putting something out in the world, they want feedback. They want to be better at their craft. They want to improve. Good people want that information, but it's not always constructive. And unfortunately, everybody's a judge, right?
Yep.
So I feel you. I saw, and I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this before. I have a brother at a brewery, and I know other people that work at breweries too. And some of these people, the employer, the brewer as an employer, makes them, part of their employment contract is you're not rating any beers on any social network ever.
Oh, interesting.
You can check in, you can take photos, but you are not allowed to rate. No stars, no caps, no thumbs ups, thumbs downs, fist bumps, fingers, rockets, nothing. And I don't think it's that uncommon, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that uncommon.
Yeah.
So it's interesting having that experience. It's interesting to hear you say that you've decided you're not going to rate any local beers. You've kind of just come to the place where probably they had already come to where and now they're just forcing it on people, and people are like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean,
but they would probably come to the same outcome anyway a year in, just as you have, that, you know what, it's not worth it.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. The other thing that I'll mention on this too is that, you know, a lot of the rating is open up whatever you want. A lot of the rating is kind of it's kind of interesting, because a lot of the rating is based on like, hey, this isn't as good as a Trillium or Treehouse, or, you know, this isn't very good. I don't like stouts, but this isn't very good. You know, you already said you don't like stouts. So
you can't say this one isn't good.
Exactly.
You've already discredited yourself.
Exactly. Or I don't like Gozas. This is horrible. So I rate it 2 caps. Well, I mean, you don't like Gozas. Like, why would you even rate it?
I don't like bleeding and having a hole in my body.
Yeah. But
this isn't good blood at all.
So I think what you need to do is, around this whole issue of rating, is, you know, you have to ignore the highest points and kind of ignore the lowest points, and look and see what the average is in the middle.
Yeah, I have gone to the point myself personally, since I am beholden to no one on this front, but I have gotten to a point now, like I used to just want to make wish lists, see what my friends are drinking, and I went through a long phase where I was rating everything like I was someone to be heard. I think we all get that initial boost of ego once we're familiar with any subject, until you get humbled enough. Now I know comments mean virtually nothing, so I comment on almost none. If you'll follow me on the Untapped, you will see that I mostly just put in a few emojis sometimes, or no comment at all, just caps. But even caps are total BS, because I don't check into anything I don't like. I'm not 2-capping anyone.
Yeah.
Just as I'm not leaving a negative comment, I'm also not 2-capping anyone. So I'm not going to check into anything I didn't enjoy. I'm not going to comment on any Facebook beer drinkers group that I didn't like something. I'm not going to comment anywhere that I didn't like something.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that to myself. Yeah. Everyone else is free to judge anything or any beer as they wish, but I'm not throwing anyone under the bus.
Yeah, one thing that I'll mention, again, just being on this side of it, is that it's incredibly important to remember that while these ratings seem incredibly linear, they're actually incredibly robust at the same time, and they can have really lasting effects for a brewery and beer sales. And
yeah, I imagine they can be pretty impactful.
It can be really impactful. So just be smart with how you rate beers. You know, obviously, remember that there are families on the other side of that rating. Right. You know, again, you think about it linearly,
right?
But I think about it on this side. I think about the effects of it for a brewery to sell beer.
Right.
I think about all the families that are impacted by that rating, which you don't think about when you're rating a beer. But now that I'm on this side and I see just how important people do take those ratings, for good or bad. I mean, it's valuable.
To come at it from the complete opposite angle, there are 1 or 2 local breweries that I've experienced, and I've tried most of the things that they make, and I don't think they make a single good beer, right? There's a couple local breweries I don't think make a single good beer. I don't say anything to anyone other than that vagueness right there. Yep. Like, I'm not ever going to say their name to people I like and know. I'm not going to do it, dude. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because I see people raving about some of their beers on Untapped and on Facebook and on Reddit and on Twitter. And I'm like, now, you know what? You go on with you. You do you. And I'm going to be over here hating on all their stuff. And I'll continue to try new things that they come out with because I'm rooting for them. I know some of these really small breweries. And I want them to be successful. I don't have to like their stuff.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that it's important to remember that all of these people, whether you like them or not, have an incredible amount of money invested into these breweries.
It's their lives.
And a lot of these people, like I know for a fact breweries that have their houses mortgaged to cover their brewery, and they could lose their houses. It's when you think about it from the personal kind of connections, you realize the value of these kind of things.
Right.
It takes on a different kind of a value, right? And you think about the fact that that there are people behind these things, and these people have lots of money invested. Because I can think of a brewery right now.
And other people are entitled to like their beer.
Yeah,
they don't have
are.
to dislike it just because I do.
Right.
But sometimes there's this presumption that if you're hating on something on social media, that everybody else is supposed to feel the same way you do.
Right.
And that's not.
You know what? Sometimes if you don't like something, you just don't have to say anything about it at all.
Don't say anything. If you don't have something nice to say.
Yeah, don't say it at all. There's a brewery that I'm thinking of that is in this region, I'll say, and I don't care for them or what they do. I will say that I root for them, and I will say that I definitely hope that they succeed, because they're a small brewery, and they,
right.
You don't hope the downfall of any one person or any company. So at the end of the day, how are we supporting these breweries instead of kind of pushing them down? And I think the rating thing is, and how we comment on beers on social media has a definite effect on that, and we just need to think about those repercussions for the people who employs. Jekyll Brewing, where I work, employs 50 plus people, and that's a lot of people that are relying on a paycheck. So
it's payroll.
I think about that, everything that I do on social media, I feel the pressure of all of those people that are employed by.
Oh, it matters, buddy.
It does matter.
No pressure. It matters. But no pressure.
So I think that we just need to just be cognizant of those values and the fact that there are actually people on the other sides of these ratings and comments that we make on social media.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting to see over time, like, we've both been on in Untapped for 6 years, and it's interesting just to see over time how our usage has changed and how we think about it has changed. So I don't know if it's maturity or if the craft beer market and consumer base as a whole are maturing, but
yeah, I think we're
pouring your beer.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to think about. It's interesting because we're having this conversation about the value and of social media and how it can shift and shape kind of successes. And I've been reading a lot about the election and how social media really affected the shape of this past election through Russians placing ads. And this is not like conspiracy.
You're not saying
stuff.
that the Russians are buying caps in Untapped.
I'm just saying that there is a clear to me there's a clear parallel between how social media was used in a way that seemed kind of innocent and naive. And
I'm going in right now to make sure that the most popular beer in the world isn't a Russian Imperial Stout.
Could be.
Dude, we could be
hopefully
onto something. We're cracking this story wide open.
I'll be Putin later. Sorry.
You did.
It was right there.
Oh, my gosh.
But yeah, I think that we just have to think about the implications of the things that we do and that we say on social media and how they relate to people in breweries and how we support local breweries.
It just isn't about beer, bro.
It's not about beer.
Jeez,
it's definitely not about.
World's going to hell in a handbasket if you went on to Twitter and asked.
Don't go on Twitter and ask.
Don't go ask.
And definitely don't post it in the YouTube comments.
What kind of cesspool have we made? All right, so let's lighten it up. We got a few more minutes, not too many. We threatened after party when we had guests and never actually did it because I don't think we could. We're not expert enough MCs.
Yeah, exactly.
To kind of be that focused, get it together. And
Plus,
I think on those shows where we had some of the incredible guests,
right,
and we had a blast. I think that
we could have talked for hours and hours.
On and on and on and on. And I think we had several libations in the process there, and it kind of got a little difficult to corral it. But look, we've got about 10 minutes here. Let's wrap this up in about 10 minutes. We can do a bit of an after party and maybe tell me a little bit about your beer travel.
Yes. So,
because everybody is riveted by your travels.
oh man, it's crazy. I was in Florida. I was in Florida for Thanksgiving week and visited Idyll Hounds and the craft bar down in Panama City and Destin, and they do a phenomenal job. This weekend I'm back in Nashville, which again I'm excited to visit with the folks at Bearded Iris and Southern Grist, who are making some of the best beers in the South. If Bearded Iris is probably making some of the best IPAs in the country right now. And it'll be fun to get out there and bring some beers back. I brought a bunch of beers back from Florida. I bought a bunch of Idyll Hound stuff. I got my hands on some Dogfish Head 120 Minute, which was
contraband, contraband.
Which was there in Florida on the regular.
Nice.
And so picked up some 120 Minute, which is a really classic. They call it the beer for hopheads.
It is the hop bomb.
It is a hop bomb. It's like 18%, I think.
It's going to kick you right in the stuff.
Yep, I picked up some of my favorite beer. It's not been a secret, but one of my favorite all-time beers, which is Funky Buddha's Last Snow.
We need like a Last Snow Funky Buddha like theme music.
Yeah, we need one.
I need a sound effect like ding ding every time you say it.
So you can look up there and see.
And we can count the bells when they finally call us.
Yeah, I stock up
advertise
for a year. Well, they have the money now, right? Now
right.
They're owned by
short on money
Constellation Brands
at all, so they could throw us what is not even a rounding error.
Yeah, exactly. So Last Snows, and then Morningwood, which is their bourbon barrel-aged maple bacon coffee porter.
It's a really good one.
Which is a really freaking good beer. Yeah. And then Weldworks, the chromatic Imperial Stout with peanut butter cups. It's made with Reese's peanut butter cups. Yep. I've got over there. And then I also got new bottles of Cigar City Brewing's Cafe Con Leche, which these are the new bottles that feature their new logo. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but if you look at the
new
bottle,
classy cigar instead of the hand-drawn one.
I know. I actually like the old logo better myself.
Yeah, it probably was better.
But they used a design firm out of North Carolina to come up with this new logo and branding for them, which is, it's more corporate, that's for sure.
The logo doesn't matter that much, does it? I mean, you're as good as your beer.
Yeah, maybe. I mean...
got to have a great logo, but
but you don't want it to look too corporate, right? I mean, you want it to look kind of you want it to have some soul to it.
They upgraded the Times New Roman, whatever that is. And and then picked up some Oak Age Vanilla Worldwide Stout. I just dropped a font joke on your ass.
Yeah,
on a beer podcast.
It was fonterific.
Fontaflora.
Yeah, Fontaflora. But yeah, the Oak Age Vanilla Worldwide Stout from Dogfish Head picked up down there, and that'll be a boozy one.
That's a boozy beer.
Sit on that one for a couple of years at least.
It is heated.
Yeah, I've heard several people that drank that beer fresh, and
I've had it. Don't do it.
It will almost knock you out.
Don't do it. It is hot.
Yep. We actually drank a Worldwide Stout here a couple of weeks ago at a share, and I literally thought I was going to die. It was so hot.
Yeah.
So
you going anywhere later in the month?
Nope.
No?
Not. Just Nashville this weekend. And then, later in the month, yes, because we're almost into December. We will be in December by the time this launches.
Yeah, we got to record
December
in December
1st.
Get our Jan 1 show on.
Yep. So I'll be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for the Christmas break, which is where my wife's family lives. And there is no good craft beer in Myrtle Beach.
That's right. Last year we were there in stereo. Was it last year or the year before?
It was last year.
Last year. We were there at the same time, but we couldn't meet up.
Yeah, and
we went to that park with the lights, and then
That's right. But I will tell you that when you're in Myrtle Beach, you're not very far from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is the home of Westbrook.
So you can get good beer at Westbrook.
You can
because
go down
there's
there.
no good beer anywhere
near Myrtle Beach. But you can go down to Mount Pleasant and go to Westbrook. I don't know if you noticed this or not.
Watch someone reach out to us and be like, "What do you mean there's no good beer in Myrtle Beach? I own a brewery here."
There's not any good breweries there. But I don't know if you noticed this or not. But see, this is what I love about Westbrook. You can love it or you can hate it. Westbrook has been fighting this whole thing for years on how do we eliminate this whole this whole secondary market thing and the people who come just to buy it and trade it and sell it.
Right.
And so Westbrook does this with their releases. They will only announce it usually that day or the day before.
I know a few breweries. Trillium does that. 10 minutes on Twitter. That's it. 10 minutes before release.
Barrel-aged Mexican cake is in the tap room now. And it's like, go. And if you're in Atlanta, you're like, oh,
you can't do
get
that.
to that.
No way.
It's like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
Like, I can't get there. So today they released their 7th anniversary, which is their 7th anniversary stout, which is chocolate and sea salt. And it literally says, available today in the tasting room on draft and in bottles to go. And
well, maybe if they didn't make such good beer, this wouldn't be a problem.
It is true. But I will tell you that the anniversary beers from Westbrook do go to distribution. So the chances are we'll
get a couple bottles.
You should be able to see it around.
We'll get a few bottles.
But with their Mexican cake and stuff, the Mexican cake stuff, they actually they again the same kind of release.
Some of it's pretty rare. Like what is it? Greenhead.
Greenhead? I don't know that one.
Greenhead. I got a beer from them. Oh my gosh, it was super expensive, dude. So expensive. But they only sent 3 cases to our state.
Huh.
I mean, of course it's expensive.
Well, it's interesting. They house a lot of Westbrook houses a lot of bottles in house that you can buy for in bottle consumption only. Again, to eliminate that secondary.
And they do a lot of collaborative brews too.
The Reserva, the Mexican cake Reserva, which you can buy in house, is $200. I want to say it's $200. You have to drink it there in the place.
Yeah, you have to consume it.
Yep. So.
They don't want you to walk out and sell it for $800.
Exactly right. They want to get as much
and you
as
will
they can. And
get $800 for that bottle.
That's exactly right. And you will sell it if you can. So yeah, I'm excited to get down to Westbrook.
Nice.
It's kind of, and then also there's another. This is another brewery that opened.
I have no travel planned.
None at all
for the holidays. None at all.
You got to check this out, and this is going to be if you're in the South. And you're traveling through the South, you may find yourself traveling through Florence, South Carolina. And if you travel through Florence, South Carolina, there's a brewery there that just went into their new location called Seminar Brewing. And Seminar Brewing, again, Florence is not like a huge city, and it's definitely not a place where you would expect there to be a really good craft brewery. But Seminar Brewing in Florence, South Carolina is actually an excellent brewer, and they're just in this really small town, Florence, South Carolina, which is outside of Myrtle Beach. So those guys are really good too.
All right, it's a good tip.
Yep,
that's heads up. Well, cool. What else you got going on?
That's it.
Just that. That's your holiday travel.
Holiday travel. Got some again. We got some more beer releases coming in the very near future. So I've got my hands full with beer releases and with some other things that we have planned for the brewery. And just enjoying beer. We have this Friday. We've been hosting shares here every Monday. We host bottle shares
in your house,
at my house,
because you keep saying we, and you're switching between your employer we and your home we.
I know we host. My wife and I host a bottle share here at our home.
Gotcha.
Every Monday, usually,
right?
And we usually have anywhere between 30 and 50 bottles over the course of a night. Anywhere between 15 to 20 people. And we're actually had a brewing event last night at the brewery, and so we're doing it this Thursday. And so we're going to open up a bunch of different bottles this Thursday. We're going to open up that Well-Work chromatic peanut butter cup, and we'll probably open up the Idyll Hounds Big and Fluffy, which is a marshmallow stout from them, and probably open up a Morningwood. Got a Monday Night Brewing Garage number 3 that will probably open up. And who knows what else we might open up.
Fun.
Should be a lot of fun. You should come.
Mondays are tough.
No, Thursday.
Oh, Thursday? This Thursday?
Yeah, this Thursday.
I can't, man. I got a commitment. I got a commitment. I can't talk about it on this show yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear about offline.
hopefully everybody knows about it by the time this. This is going to drop in a couple of days. No, it's not going to be ready.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Well, let's just call it.
Yeah. Well, thanks again.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Classic.
Thanks for your,
old school. Kicking it
work.
old school.
Good work.
Mano a mano.
Yeah.
If you have a question or something you would like us to discuss, drop us an email, sip@lastbeershow.com, or hit us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, @TheLastBeerShow. A reminder that we are proud members of the ABV Network. Go to abvnetwork.com to see all the amazing podcasts, or go to your podcast app of choice, search for something like The Last Beer Show, The Firewater Review, The Bourbon Daily, among others. And if you really want to have a good time, go to Instagram and follow the hashtag ABV Network Crew. There's always all kinds of stuff happening on there, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, thanks for listening. Peace. Oh, wait. One more thing. Please do us a solid and go to iTunes, rate the show. We would be extremely grateful. Thank you very much. Thanks again for listening.